we need to understand what natural disaster is. The lesson is about natural disaster. The main purpose of this lesson is to introduce to the student what natural disaster is and what are the major types of natural disasters. It also explains the scope of social work, interventions in handling these disasters. What are the objectives of this course? At the end of this lesson, the student should be able to explain what natural disaster is, list out different types of natural disasters, and understand the scope of social work interventions in handling disasters. Let us look at the concept of disaster. The word disaster has its origin from a French word désastre, which consists of two words, des and astre, which means evil star. The history of disasters can be traced along with the history of mankind. Natural disasters keep its moments high with its frequency and complexity and affects every nation's economy irrespective of its standard of development. It creates greater risk to the people, infrastructures and public and private assets, and the effect will be higher if it occurs in densely populated habitation zones. A disaster can be defined as a serious disruption in the functioning of the community or a society, causing widespread material, economic, social or environmental losses which exceed the ability of the affected society to cope using its own resources. Disasters are events and they occur abruptly and dreadfully, which creates dysfunction in the community, which ends up in losses of man, material and environment. It affects community's ability to manage its resources to overcome the dysfunction. Most disasters have its origin because of human intervention. Every disaster is unique and it may not be a single event. The combination of hazards, vulnerabilities and inability to lessen the potential harmful consequences of risk results in disaster. Typology of disasters. Studies have proved that disasters can be classified into two categories, that is, natural disasters caused by nature such as earthquakes, floods, cyclones, etc., and human-made disasters, that is, explosion, fire, nuclear accidents and so on. If you look at the diagram below, it talks about these two disasters such as natural disasters and man-made disasters. As regards to man-made disasters, we all know that they occur and they are beyond our capacity to control or reduce the impact. Contrary to its natural disasters, effects can be reduced by taking precautionary measures in advance, particularly before disasters occurs. The High-Powered Committee, that's HPC, on Disaster Management emphasized on the need for a comprehensive and holistic approach towards dealing with all kinds of disasters. Various disasters identified by HPC are listed as various subgroups such as water and climate related disasters, geologically related disasters, chemical disasters, industrial and nuclear related disasters, accident related disasters and biologically related disasters. These are the various categorizations of disasters. Has categorized disasters, and these disasters can be categorized as subgroup 1, which is water and climate related disasters, of course deals with water and climate related disasters. Subgroup 2 includes geologically related disasters to do with the geology of the planet. Subgroup 3 is chemical, industrial and nuclear related disasters, of course deals with industries, chemical overflows and so on and so forth. Subgroup 4 deals with accident related disasters, and we come to subgroup 5, which is biologically related disasters. India is rigorously exposed to natural and man-made disasters that affects the natural resources, that is the non-renewable resources of a nation. Natural disasters are a phenomena that occurs abruptly and without any prior signals in most cases, whereas man-made disasters are incidents which occur as a consequence of human interventions or by accidental that cause severe pressure to the well-being of the living things and to the environment. The effects can be mitigated through awareness and alertness, preparedness and response. In the Indian scenario goes in line with the global scenario. 70% of the cultivable land is prone to drought. Next major threat is seismic hazards, prone, and that comes to 59%. There are also other threats like floods, cyclones, avalanches, landslides, hailstorms, cloud bursts, etc. These are all natural disasters. The table below shows the top disasters occurring in India. Now, if we look at the disasters impacting India, we saw in 2014 the Kashmir floods. It impacted Srinagar, Bandipur and Rajouri district, and the death toll was more than 500 people. In Uttarakhand, the flash floods in 2013 occurred. They happened in Gobindghat, Kedar Dome, Rudraprayag district, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh and western Nepal, and this impacted more than 5,000 people. In the Indian Ocean in 2004 there was a tsunami, and parts of southern India and Andaman Nicobar Islands, Sri Lanka and Indonesia were impacted by these disasters, and more than 2 lakh people died in this. In 2001, in the Gujarat earthquake, which occurred in Bhuj, Ahmedabad, Gandhinagar, Kutch, Surat, Surendranagar district, Rajkot district, Jamnagar and Jodhia, there were 20,000 plus deaths. In Odisha, there was a super cyclone 1999, and the coastal districts of Bhadrak, Kendrapara, Balasore, Puri, Ganjam, etc., there were 10,000 plus deaths. In 1993, in the Latur earthquake, districts of Latur and Osmanabad, there were 20,000 plus deaths. This shows the impact of lives that natural disasters take. Natural disasters, scientists, environmentalists and geologists confirm that natural disasters are the consequences of natural and human activities. Global statistics speak that major death casualties of natural disasters are taking place in developing countries, especially those countries that lies in the area of the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. This is the area where poorer countries are located in the globe, where the problems of disaster management is unique owing to the competing needs between basic necessities for people and economic progress. There they face a threat of life, property, environment and health, and its magnitude of destruction and damage caused by the so-called disaster is very high. Due to its uniqueness, every natural disaster that occurs is unique and non-comparable. Hence, pre-plans may not work effectively and constructively. We can classify natural disasters into different types. In the diagram below, we can see that natural disasters are categorized into atmospheric disasters, terrestrial disasters, aquatic disasters and biological disasters. What are atmospheric disasters? They are those events which happens below the sky and above the ground. Examples of it are blizzards, thunderstorms, lightning, tornadoes, tropical cyclones, drought, hailstorm, frost, heat wave and cold waves. On the other hand, terrestrial disasters are believed to be done by the creator and not under human control. Some of the notable terrestrial disasters are earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, landslides, avalanches, soil erosion, and another type of disaster is the aquatic disasters, which is related to water. Examples of it are flood, tidal waves, ocean currents, storms, surge, tsunamis, etc. And finally, when we are discussing biological disasters, it is the kind of epidemics, flu or anything under medical spreads in any area. Examples of biological disaster are plants and animals as colonies, insect infestations like fungal, bacterial and viral diseases such as H1N1 and bird flu. These are all biological disasters. Natural disasters in India. Let us now explore into the details of natural disasters in India. Earthquakes. An earthquake is the most impulsive and greatly destructive among all the disasters, and the affected area of it is very extensive. Earthquakes occur due to the sudden release of energy during the tectonic activities in the Earth's crust. Cracks are formed on the surface through which water or volatile material gush out, such as molten lava and hot springs, which is boiling water, streams which come out from the Earth's surface. It stresses in the Earth's outer layer, pushes the sides of the fault together, stress builds up and the rocks slip suddenly, releasing energy in waves that travel through the Earth's crust and causes the shaking that we feel during an earthquake. Landslides occur due to which rivers also change their course, causing floods and other calamities in the affected areas. Some of the vulnerable states are Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, northeastern states, Maharashtra and Gujarat. According to the Government of India, there are 5 earthquake zones in India, and they can be classified into very high damage risk zones, high damage risk zones, moderate damage risk zones, low damage risk zone and very low damage risk zone. Out of these, the first zones had experienced some of the most devastating earthquakes in India. Major earthquake hazard zones in India are found in the Himalayan ranges. What are the effects of earthquakes? We can understand this, that the effects on the ground, on human-made structures and on water. Now if we take on the ground, we will see fissures, it impacts settlements, landslides, liquefaction, earth pressure and possible chain effects. On human-made structures, we see crackling, sliding, overtuning, bucking. There is a collapse of buildings and possible chain effects on other structures. And on water, we see there are waves, hydrodynamic pressures. It manifests in the form of tsunamis, and this will also impact through a possible chain effect. What is tsunami? Tsunami is the phenomenon of earthquake and volcanic eruptions occurring in the sea floor, which results in sudden dislocation of the ocean water in the form of high vertical waves. It is a series of waves, and the first may not be the largest. Most tsunamis take place near a fault line, which falls out in massive flooding along the shoreline where they hit. The force of the water depends on the size of the tsunami, and the volume of the water can cause significant damage to natural and human-made environments. Due to this phenomena, water flows violently onto the land, destroying lives and infrastructure. As India is having majority of its boundaries as oceans, the ripples affect the tsunami will be much higher, and the central and state governments find it difficult to mitigate the damage caused by tsunamis. Tropical cyclones or hurricanes. Tropical cyclones are a kind of rotating storms, intensive low pressure areas confined to the area lying between 30 degrees north and 30 degrees south latitude, which spreads to the area between Tropic of Cancer to Tropic of Capricorn or the equatorial region. It is caused by a combination of strong winds driving water on the shore and the lower atmospheric pressure in a tropical cyclone. As warm moist air over the ocean rises up from the ocean surface, there is less air left near the surface, and this causes an area of lower air pressure below. They use warm moist air as fuel, warmth from the land's heat and moisture from the sea's water. Cyclones mostly develop in the Bay of Bengal during the month of October and November near the Sundarban Delta. Cyclones of the Bay of Bengal are expected to get worse and more frequent due to climate change. With the increase in the distance from the sea, the force of the cyclone decreases, Coastal areas are often struck by the cyclone at 180 kilometers an hour, which parallel increases the sea level. Lessons learned from the previous cyclone studies was the way mangrove forests along the coastline can minimize the impact of cyclone on villages. Then government took measures for massive mangrove restoration efforts along the coast, which benefited the communities and is leading to ecological resilience in the region. Next is floods. What are floods? Floods are natural occurrences where an area or land that is normally dry abruptly becomes submerged in the water. In simple terms, flood can be defined as an overflow of large quantities of water onto a normally dry land. It is the rise of the water level in the river channel and spills over. Floods are caused by heavy rainfall over a long time or due to other geological or meteorological disasters. Let's take an example. If a dam may burst and this can cause flooding below the dam. It happens in many ways due to overflow of streams, rivers, lakes or ocean. As a result, because of excessive rain, natural disasters frequently result in the degradation of water sources. In flooding, the polluted waters from the drainage and sewage lines mix with the drinking water source, making the water unsafe naturally for human consumption. They have serious consequences on the national economy and society. They destroy crops, damage physical infrastructure such as roads, rails, bridges and human settlements. Due to stagnation of water, diseases like cholera, gastroenteritis, hepatitis and other waterborne diseases spread. States like Assam, West Bengal and Bihar are among the most high flood prone areas in India. Whenever flooding takes place, there is the possibility of loss of life, hardship to people and extensive damage to property. This is because flooding can carry bridges, cars, houses and even people. Flooding also destroys crops and can wipe away trees and other important structures on land. Some floods occur abruptly and recede quickly, whereas others take several days or even months to form and to recede because of variation in size, duration and the area affected. What are droughts? Droughts are one of the most scariest and deadliest natural calamities. Droughts have claimed innumerable lives in India in the 18th, 19th and 20th centuries. A drought is a period of drier than normal conditions that results in water-related problems. It is the excessive rate of evaporation of water. It is an extended period when there is a shortage of water due to lack of rainfall. When little or no rain falls, soils can dry out and plants can die. When rainfall is less than normal for several weeks, months or years, the flow of streams and rivers become turned down, water levels in lakes and reservoirs go down and the depth of water in wells decreases. If dry weather persists and water supply problems develop, the dry period can become a drought. Drought has been a regular incident in the arid and semi-arid regions of India, but widespread drought even in other parts is the most dreaded direct effect of climate change. 68% of India's cropped area receives a rainfall between 750 to 2000 millimeters per annum. These areas are highly susceptible to irregularities in the monsoon, such as late onset, long breaks and early withdrawal. They are vulnerable to droughts. The reasons are inadequate rainfall, lack of water vapor in the atmosphere, climate change and location. The Irrigation Commission of India has identified 67 districts in the country that are drought prone. Some of the states that have been identified as drought prone include Rajasthan, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Northern Karnataka, Maharashtra and Western Aravallis. Human activities can set off droughts, which include widespread cutting down of trees for fuel, which reduces the soil's ability to hold water, leads to drying out the ground, triggering desertification and leading to drought. However, it may also source drought downstream by severely reducing the flow of water. The consequences of drought are scarcity of food grains, death, and cattle and animals migration of humans. The next is landslides. What are landslides? The movement of a collection of rocks, debris, or earth down a hill is known as landslide. In other words, we can say it is the downslope movement of soil, rocks, debris, or earth due to gravitational pull. Debris or mud flow and rocks falls are the widespread examples of landslides. There are multiple causes for landslides. The causes includes the increase in the gravitational pull, which results in the effects of downslope forces that exceed the strength of the earth's material which compose the slope. Another cause is the low or reduced strength of the slopes that are on the threshold of movement by rainfall, snow melt, varying water levels, stream erosion, increase in groundwater, earthquakes, volcanic activity, disturbances by human activities, or any other groupings of these factors. The shaking that occurs as part of earthquake can create landslides beneath water. These are known as submarine landlines. At times it may cause tsunamis and harm coastal areas. Three major factors make landslides more likely to occur: heavy rainfall adding weight and lubricating layers of land, deforestation, weakening root structures, and earthquakes shaking land loose. Landslides can happen immediately after a natural disaster, but some happens very slowly over a period of many years. What are the preventive measures to deal with natural disasters? Preventive measures are those activities which one tries to stop or prevent from happening, or any action which reduces the negative effects of an incident. In natural disasters, some of the possible interventions are a detection and warning system. There can be emergency exit or evacuation of people. We need maybe control and reporting centers which can tell you about natural disasters. We need reliable communication systems. And there is also the requirement for training and rehearsals which deal with rescue, first aid, control plan, hazards and risk reduction, planning, and the distribution of books, pamphlets, and videos and CDs. Training and rehearsals can be done to instructors, volunteers, community members. The professionals would include ambulance personnel, paramedics, police, defense personnel, medical, nursing, and engineers. Social work interventions after major natural disasters. If a person is not able to deal with his or her normal mode because of some traumatic event, he or she is said to be in a psychological crisis. A psychological crisis cannot be forecasted, and a crisis for an individual may not be a crisis for another person. In case of natural calamities, everyone is affected by the crisis, irrespective of gender, profession, and possession of assets or wealth. While dealing with crisis, one should bear following things in mind. A traumatized person or therapist is not in a position to be a supporter for the needy people, so he or she has to pay attention to themselves and others too. During crisis, one may lose insight and may be chance to get disorganized. In that situation, the social worker, the counselor, or the therapist need to make clarity about the way of thinking. In crisis, people may be unable to evaluate priorities, so the social workers can maintain a checklist for analyzing the work in process. Crisis management is the best avenue where interdisciplinary work becomes successful. For this, the social workers need to work collaboratively and collectively. An apt example is the role of multidisciplinary team in disaster management. At the time of emergency, the social worker has to work with the needy persons and has to break the principle of confidentiality for providing emergency support to the victims. The social workers have to work till the needs and resources are met by the victims. Social workers working in crisis management has to be creative and innovative, considering factors like space, time, materials, and resources. He or she has to use the professional skills intact and set goals according to the crisis. What are the crisis intervention? The goal of crisis intervention is to help the patient to deal with the trauma. The goal is to help the patient cope with the new situation. The goal is to return the patient to the earlier level of functioning. These goals are met by inviting the patient to talk about his or her experiences, get some viewpoint on the event, sort out the related feelings, and solve problems about how to manage his or her problem. In the first meeting itself, the social worker has to collect basic information about the whereabout, medical condition, social support system needed for the victims. Based on the assessment, the social worker has to set short and long-term goals, and at the termination phase, he or she has to make the patient capable to make a plan that the victim has to follow in his or her daily life. If the patient or the victim is a child or not in a mental state to do the plan on his own, the social worker has to assign the task to the adult in charge of the custody of the person. He or she has to arrange referrals if needed for the client, and with that they terminate their relationship. During natural disasters, the social worker has to take the lead role in coordinating the rescue, relief and rehabilitation process of the victim of disasters. Now we shall summarize. In summary, we can say disasters can be classified into two categories, that is natural disasters such as earthquakes, floods, cyclones, etc., and human-made disasters, that is explosion, fire, nuclear accidents and so on. Statistics shows the occurrence of natural disasters in a progressive trend, and the impacts of natural disasters like earthquakes, landslides, drought, floods, storms, tropical cyclones, etc. become a threat to the survival of human beings and their livelihoods, which are the bottlenecks in achieving development. Natural disasters aggravated by environmental degradation, mismanagement has affected the environment adversely. With sound management systems and processes, the reverse proves true, thus establishing a direct link between disaster mitigation and environmental management through social work interventions, resulting in lessening the threat to human life.